Chicken Yogi Show, the podcast that brings you spiritual wellness discussions from the chicken yogi, Kit Kilstow. Broadcasting from their homestead, the spiritual home of the Akiam Institute, Kit helps you find the magic within to overcome life's struggles and live your authentic life. Their focus is on what they call trauma-sensitive spiritual wellness, the ability to tap into your inner magic and access your spiritual self with supportive, nurturing care. Listen to deep dives on spiritual topics, as well as practical tips to create the magic you need to live well and live authentically in the Chicken Yogi Show. Welcome to this week's episode of the Chicken Yogi Show. This week, I'm going to be talking to you about hustle culture and how that actually serves to separate you from yourself, from nature, and ultimately from being in harmony with the universe around you. If you're not familiar with the term hustle culture, it is a situation where your career, your work, your job, whether that's a startup, whether that is an actual career working for somebody in some aspect, that career, that earning money has become such a priority in your life or the environment that anything else you do, other aspects of being human, like hobbies, family time, self-care, take a back seat. And it's very hard to avoid hustle culture. I mean, there's the ubiquitous startup culture, especially around tech startups, where people will, take pride in the fact that they work long hours. They'll take pride in the fact that they never see their family because they're building a multi-million-dollar business. There's that aspect of hustle culture, but I feel like for many of us, we're stuck in hustle culture because, well, capitalism demands it. We often don't earn a living wage. We have to work whatever hours our employer set, and some employers are better than others about creating things like regular schedules, giving good notice for when you have to come into work, setting those expectations. And if you aren't earning enough money, then you're on a side hustle, you're on a second job, you're doing something to try to fill in the gaps with that. And because of that, you fall into hustle culture, even if that never was your intent in the first place. In the end, when you're falling into the workaholic type trap, you're serving capitalism. You're not serving yourself. And you might be listening to that and thinking, well, gee, isn't it selfish to try to serve yourself? Well, no. Just like in an airplane where they talk to you about putting on your own oxygen mask before you help your friends or your seatmates or whoever put on their oxygen masks. If you don't feed yourself, you're not going to have the strength, the energy, the ability to actually take care of the other people in your life, or maybe even the other pets in your life if you have a dog or a cat, that really, in a way, make life worth living. I mean, I don't want to say that we should be living for other people, but it's having friends and family and people to share things with that really adds some flavor or some spice to life. And so if you're not taking care of yourself, you really can't enjoy your time with other people, with your pets, with your loved ones, with your friends. And in the end, that's what leads to burnout, which frankly is the topic of a whole nother podcast, probably maybe more than one. But in the end, if you're simply hustling, if you're simply serving capitalism, then you're serving something outside of yourself. You're not serving your own personal needs or fulfillments. You might feel fulfilled by your job. You might feel that you're, fulfilling some inner need to make your mark in the world, to do what you need to do. But in the end, which is going to be more important to you? Is it going to be that company that you built that eventually you sell off, or maybe the company that eventually fails? Or is it going to be the friends and family who love you and care for you, and the good times and good people with whom you surround yourself? It's this connection to something inside yourself rather than something external that I really want to focus on in this episode, because it is easy, almost too easy, to find an external goal and to simply go after that external goal and feeling like that's what you want. A lot of people will go into a college or go into a profession because that's what they feel that the people around them want to do. A lot of people will chase a certain amount of money because they feel like, once they become a millionaire, they'll be happy. Well, then they find they're not happy and they need to become a multimillionaire. And it comes back to something you may have heard of, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And at the bottom, are our base needs, food and shelter. And then you move up through the triangle until you get to the peak, which is self-actualization. And sadly, a lot of people in the world are stuck in those base needs because capitalism means that it costs money to live. And if you're impoverished, if you're underemployed, if you're making, not a living wage, then you're going to be struggling for those basic needs. You're going to be living month to month, paycheck to paycheck. And that means you're not going to have time or energy to get beyond that need. And there's a whole lot systemically that we could do to resolve the situation, or at least make it a lot better. And that's a choice that us as a society or us as a culture have to make. But in that bottom hierarchy, that also is where a lot of people are stuck who have fallen into the trap of the hustle culture, because they are identifying themselves, identifying their self-worth with chasing after some goal, with being perceived as being a good person and working. And again, there's a lot of social things around that we could unpack about the, Puritan work ethic and the way that America was founded, and some of our rugged individualism in there. There's a lot there that, we could certainly unpack. We could spend hours talking about that. But that's kind of where hustle culture gets its roots, that you're only a good human being if you're working. And what that does is that turns the focus from what you want deep inside. That turns the focus to the things that light you up, that, fill up your cup, that help give you fuel and passion for life. That turns the focus away from that and into some external goal that always seems just out of reach. Looking at that external goal, that is much higher up on the hierarchy of needs. That's where we get into self-actualization, which is where you feel valued, you feel that you're fully utilizing your talents. Depending on what research you read, being a parent, having a partner in life, those sort of things also fall under self-actualization, although I won't be discussing them here. I believe that you can have a very full and very rich life without being a parent, for example. I know personally for myself, my nurturing, my parenting comes out in, the animals I care for here on the homestead, and in taking care of my cats. If you've ever heard me talk to a baby chicken, you'd swear I was talking to a baby. So there are many different ways to fulfill those needs without actually being a parent. And so what I want to focus on is the utilizing your talents and abilities and pursuing goals. Now, beyond self-actualization is transcendence, which has many different meanings and has been discussed in philosophy, in religion, and the tippy top of the triangle is self-transcendence, or your spiritual needs. And spiritual needs can be met on a whole bunch of different levels, but when your spiritual needs are met, they produce feelings of integrity and raises the book says things, but raises your being to a higher plane of existence. And spiritual needs isn't so much what you may think of as traditional religion, like going to church, talking with your pastor, talking with your high priestess, your rabbi. Your spiritual needs are more how connected you feel to the broader universe, and what do you feel your place in that universe is? Do you feel that there is some entity or entities or beings, whatever you want to call them, higher powers Do you feel that there is something that is out there above us in the universe that maybe has some guiding force in your life, maybe has some direction or some say in your life? Maybe you have a conversation with this entity. Or it also could just simply be, taking God or an entity out of the equation. It also could be, what is your place in the universe? My husband is an amateur astronomer. I'm very much a fan of space, although I don't understand it as much as he does. But I find it interesting, to watch the NASA channel or watch documentaries. I think it's amazing what we're finding out there in the universe. But there's also something incredibly humbling when you think about the size of Jupiter, the size of our sun, and the fact that we're a pretty small fry out there in this big universe, that there's galaxies and stars and things that are so much bigger than we are, and the distances are so vast. My brain just kind of trips out just thinking about it. Things that are hundreds and thousands of light years away from us, that even if we could travel as fast as light, it would still take us hundreds or thousands of years to get there. The fact that, I could be wrong here, but, Betelgeuse, which is a star in Orion, that star is going to go supernova anytime now, but the light takes 600 years to get to us. So by the time we see this supernova explosion, it's done and gone. It's already happened, and it happened so long ago in the past that, Christopher Columbus probably hadn't even sailed yet. And you just think about that, and it's just like, wow, there's a lot of things out there in the universe, and that kind of awe-inspiring brilliance, I guess. I'm kind of struggling even to find words to explain it, but that's spiritual. It's pure science, pure astronomy, pure physics. You can take a higher power out of it, but there's still a very spiritual fact and very spiritual existence just contemplating that in your place in a universe so grand. It's very humbling, very awe-inspiring. And so when we think about hustle culture takes us so far away from that, because we are too busy trying to catch the next dollar that we don't see what's going on. You may not even notice, bringing it back here on terra firma, you might not even notice the changing of the seasons. You'll step outside one day and think, oh, when did it get cold? When did winter come? You're that removed from your immediate environment because we have built these artificial environments around us. And unless you actually take time to stand outside to sense the crispness of the air, if you're in an area where there are 4 seasons, or even, if you live somewhere where there aren't technically 4 seasons, you can still, step outside and notice, okay, we have transitioned from a cooler winter fall type season. Okay, it's warming up now, summer's coming, beach weather. You can still notice those changes. Notice the flowers around you. Oh, the tulips are blooming. It's spring. The irises are blooming again. We have reblooming irises here on the homestead, so we get spring and fall blooms. It's very pretty. Or one of the first signs of spring here are the serviceberry trees that get these big fluffy clouds of white flowers on them. We've got a couple on our property, and it's always as soon as that happens, that spring's here. When you are hustling, when you're constantly go, 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 you're not stopping to notice that's happening. And sadly, you're also not noticing what changes are happening inside your own body. You'll wake up someday and your back will hurt, and you won't realize that sitting hunched over your computer, that was slowly getting worse and worse and worse until all of a sudden you can't deal with it and you have to go to the doctor. So hustle culture serves to keep us focused on something external rather than internal. So how do you focus on something that's internal when you got to make a living. I mean, right now, the way things are set, you have to pay for your housing, you have to pay for your food, you have to pay for your utilities. That's not free. We're not living in a, federation-esque utopian type society where we've decided that we've transcended money because we have the resources for everybody. And at that point, when you are dealing with those mundane needs, how do you take the time to tune in? And the answer is both simple and complicated, because obviously what I want is for everybody to pursue their passion. And if your passion is serving people good food, making sure that they're fed on their lunches, that's great. If your passion is making music, if your passion is making art, maybe your passion is working with children, maybe your passion is working with animals. I want nothing more than for people to find that self-actualization and to be able to listen to their bodies, listen to the world around them, and follow their hearts to stay true to themselves. Because certainly we need more people to be true to themselves in this world. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue with that. The question is, how do we do that in a culture that prioritizes hustling? And I think the first way to do that is to actually stop and ask yourself, what do you want? Too often, at least what I found in my life, is that we get caught up in the immediate need to pay the bills. For example, my dream when I was in high school, I wanted to write books and work on a horse farm. And I think my guidance counselor, upon encountering this young, determined person who knew exactly what they wanted to do, went, phew, I don't have to do any work with this one, and off they went. Well, a couple of semesters into my equine science degree, I discovered that at $5 an hour, and this was back in the 90s, I was the highest paid stable hand probably in the region, if not in America. And that wasn't going to get me out of my parents' house. And so I was kind of faced with the dilemma. Well, shit, what do I do? The dream, I knew I'd have a tough time not coming from a rich family, not coming from a family with horses. I knew I'd have a hard time working in this industry, but I thought I could kind of make it work. And of course, I was doing all of the aspiring writer things too back in those days. I am focused on romance novels, and so I was, working with the local RWA chapter, which for those who don't know is Romance Writers of America. And so I was doing everything I needed to do there, but writing then was very much gatekept to the big five publishers. And so if you didn't get published with one of the big guys, you were kind of out of luck. Things are totally changed now. And I'd love to talk publishing with anybody who has any questions about it. So feel free to write in with your questions about writing, and I'll put my other hat on and talk to you about it. But, back then, well, the thing to do, I got a job at a temp agency, which led to a job at MCI, which led to customer service, and I did customer service. Transitioned into working for a major bank. I processed mortgages for a while, landed in tech support, and that's kind of, that was finally where I was. But I didn't want to do tech support. Tech for somebody who was assigned female at birth or female presenting is very rough. I mean, I'm not going to lie. The tech world in some respects is very hostile to those that it perceives as not cis white male or even not cis male. And so you need to stop. You need to ask yourself, whoa, you not so much getting off track, and maybe, you can use the term to take a side quest, but you need to stop and ask yourself, is this what I want? Well, if the answer is no, as it often is, then the question becomes, well, what do I want to do? Take a deep breath. All is not lost. What do you want to do? And sometimes that is the hardest question to answer. But in asking that question, you're finally starting to get in tune with yourself. And I firmly believe we have to get in tune with ourselves before we can tune into the world around us. Because if you just simply tune into the world around you, you're going to not be anchored. It is reaching into yourself. It is going in through your energy bodies and actually making that connection that, okay, I am whole, I am grounded, I am steady. When you make that connection, then like a tree putting down roots, you can reach out your branches and reach out into the world around you and start to interact with that. So just ask yourself, am I doing what I want to do? If the answer is no, get very clear on what you want to do. Get very clear on what your passion is. If your job's not fulfilling for you, there's no shame there. There's no judgment there. You're not alone. Good Lord, you're not alone. But what would fulfill you? What is your passion? Okay. What do you need to get there? Do you need to go back to school? Do you need to maybe cultivate new careers? Is there something you can do in the meantime? Maybe some volunteer work, maybe some online advocacy to help get you to where you want to be, to help you make that transition. If it's something where you would need to retrain yourself for a new career, that's going to take time. What can you do in the meantime to keep yourself lit, to keep yourself going towards that passion so you don't get broken down again, so you don't get beat down by the demands of hustle culture? As soon as you ask yourself, is this what I want to be doing? You're stepping outside of hustle culture. It's like you put a hula hoop on the ground and you stand inside the hula hoop, and everywhere inside that hula hoop, that's hustle. And that's your little bubble, and you're just hustling. As soon as you stop, take a deep breath and put one foot outside of that hula hoop, you've broken that spell. You are ready to now ask yourself, okay, what do I want to do and how do I get where I want to go? Once you have those answers, you can then start to work with it. And I'm not going to say that it's going to be like a snap of your fingers magic. Transition from a career into doing what you want, that could take learning, that could take time, it could take learning new skills. You might, in a way, be hustling even more as you make that transition. But I think you'll notice that the switch from an external goal to an internal goal, that lights you up. That's power. That's taking back your power. That's claiming what you want to do. And that's how you start to get in harmony. You may notice, for example, that if you're focused on what you want to do, you may have more energy for things that you want in your life. You may have more energy. You may feel more inspired. You may all of a sudden start to notice what's going on around you. It's like a veil has been lifted off of your face. It's like, when your glasses get smudged, if anybody, wears glasses out there like I do, if your glasses get smudged, you're like squinting like, God, did my vision just get horrible all of a sudden? Maybe that's just me, but you're like, did my vision get horrible all of a sudden? You take your glasses off and go, no, that's normal. And then you look at your glasses and go, oh my God, there's a big smudge. When did that happen? You don't know when it happened. You just know that it's impeding your vision. And hustle culture is very much the same way. You don't know that it happened, but you know that it's impeding your vision. And so I think that's kind of where I want to leave things today, is I want you to just think about, are you stuck in hustle culture? And if so, are you feeding something inside yourself, or are you feeding something that is coming from within? I hope that you find some of those answers, and stay tuned, because I'm going to talk about in future episodes how to get more in touch with yourself, how to ground, how to center, how to really begin to feel as if you're growing into your own skin as opposed to just wandering through life. So thank you so much for listening. Like, follow, share on all the social media platforms. And until next time, be kind to yourself. Thank you for listening to The Chicken Yogi Show, the podcast that brings you stories and wisdom from the chicken yogi, Kit Kilstow. The Chicken Yogi Show is presented on the Akiam Radio Network and is supported by Chicken Yogi. Learn more about Kit's work at chickenyogi.com. Sign up for free Reiki and spiritual support, or schedule a paid session for more in-depth work. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow The Chicken Yogi on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as the podcast that you're listening to. Listen to all episodes and get show notes at chickenyogishow.com. Thank you for listening. And how do I get where I want to go? Once you have those answers, you can then start to work with it. And I'm not going to say that it's going to be like a snap of your fingers magic. Transition from a career into doing what you want, that could take learning, that could take time, it could take learning new skills. You might, in a way, be hustling even more as you make that transition. But I think you'll notice that the switch from an external goal to an internal goal, that lights you up. That's power. That's taking back your power. That's claiming what you want to do. And that's how you start to get in harmony. You may notice, for example, that if you're focused on what you want to do, you may have more energy for things that you want in your life. You may have more energy. You may feel more inspired. You may all of a sudden start to notice what's going on around you. It's like a veil has been lifted off of your face. It's like, when your glasses get smudged, if anybody, wears glasses out there like I do, if your glasses get smudged, you're like squinting like, God, did my vision just get horrible all of a sudden? Maybe that's just me, but you're like, did my vision get horrible all of a sudden? You take your glasses off and go, no, that's normal. And then you look at your glasses and go, oh my God, there's a big smudge. When did that happen? You don't know when it happened. You just know that it's impeding your vision. And hustle culture is very much the same way. You don't know that it happened, but you know that it's impeding your vision. And so I think that's kind of where I want to leave things today, is I want you to just think about, are you stuck in hustle culture? And if so, are you feeding something inside yourself, or are you feeding something that is coming from within? I hope that you find some of those answers, and stay tuned, because I'm going to talk about in future episodes how to get more in touch with yourself, how to ground, how to center, how to really begin to feel as if you're growing into your own skin, as opposed to just wandering through life. So thank you so much for listening. Like, follow, share on all the social media platforms. And until next time, be kind to yourself. Thank you for listening to The Chicken Yogi Show, the podcast that brings you stories and wisdom from the Chicken Yogi, Kit Kilstow. The Chicken Yogi Show is presented on the Akiam Radio Network and is supported by Chicken Yogi. Learn more about Kit's work at chickenyogi.com. Sign up for free Reiki and spiritual support, or schedule a paid session for more in-depth work. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow The Chicken Yogi on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as the podcast that you're listening to. Listen to all episodes and get show notes at chickenyogishow.com. Thank you for listening. Support, or schedule a paid session for more in-depth work. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow The Chicken Yogi on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as the podcast that you're listening to. Listen to all episodes and get show notes at chickenyogishow.com. Thank you for listening.